Let's get it going. This is Tailgate Talk. I am host Shaun Ritter, former Major Leaguer Paul Wagner. Wag's with us today, Eric Tasker as well, and joined by a special guest from Vortex Optics, Mark. What was the last name again, Mark?
Boardman, like a piece of wood and then man afterwards, so pretty simple.
I always love when people have names like that. They have to you have to pronounce them. Like, my original last name is actually Ritterbush, so you have to be like, oh, it's like Ridder of Bush, and you know how you have to explain things.
I get a lot of Broadmans and Boardmans. So, and actually, I think there's like a law office around here that's Boardman. So people are like, oh, the lawyer. I'm like, that ain't me.
All right. So Vortex Optics, you guys are here in Wisconsin. We wanted to get you on to talk about some products and some different optic stuff. But before we get into that, we kind of want to just roll into the normal part of our show. We just kind of open things up and catch up around the room. Have you got out doing anything at all, Tasker, in the woods again since opening weekend of bow season?
I have not. Anxious to get back up there. So I got out opening weekend, spent a couple days up there, checked the cameras. I hunt kind of up in the Eau Claire area and just public ground up there. So we spent 3 days, but my two trips are coming up here, the 8th to the 13th. It's like a Friday to Wednesday, couple days. And then we're going to go back up for the first week of November as well. So trying to hit 3 different parts. Hopefully we get some movement. And so besides that, I've just been getting out and shooting my bow and just trying to make sure that when I get the shot, I'm going to be confident in the shot and ready to roll. So, but besides that, that's pretty much all that I've been doing to keep it busy.
Now, I was texting a little bit the other day with you, and I finally got out on Tuesday. I went to go do an evening sit. Jumped 3 does, literally just got it. I wasn't even into the woods yet. I just kind of crept around. So I've got this all standing corn. I kind of walking around the cornfield, and I wanted to get back down to the woods. So I'm trying to play the wind, so I had to take a longer walk around. And I knew as I came up to the crest of this hill on the edge of the field, I'm like, I'm gonna just hang back and kind of hang low because just in case there's something off in the brush on the side. And normally I just start creeping up and I just knock an arrow just in case. I'm like, I'm just gonna 3 does, just stand up, jump about 10 feet, and I just about to pull back. I'm looking, and I'm like, I ain't got a shot through the brush at them. So I'm like, put it down. It's just it's frustrating that it happens, and then creep back in the woods. But the part why I started texting you, Tasker, was not like, oh, I'm out. It was, we keep talking about the difference between mobile hunting and stand hunting and how I like to do things a lot more mobile. I get up on one spot and I'm like, I like this is good. I've got 2 crossing trails, but the wind just still didn't seem perfect for me. And I thought, okay, I can probably go better if I walk more along and kind of sneak around the back behind and then get up on this other kind of ridge where I literally had 3 crossing trails now, all within 20-yard shots of me. And I was really covered within, just kind of some short, taller stuff. And I was able to creep right down in that and sit. And, we talk about why mobile hunting and why I like it. It was exactly that. And I'm really not a patient person. So, if I'm sitting for a while and I'm like, this just isn't happening, I don't like this. I like to be able really quickly be able to move somewhere. So I just went in on the ground on Tuesdays. I didn't bother with stand or sticks or any of that kind of stuff. But how about you, Mark? As far as hunting, obviously I'm assuming you're a bow hunter at all.
So I'm trying to think, as of late, I did a quick bomb run to do some archery antelope hunting. I think that was the second week of September. So just kind of like a solo trip and ran into some goats, had a good time, chased them around a little bit and had one shot and shot over his back. So it was good. It was a good, fun hunt. I never felt like I found them. I covered a lot of ground on foot and in the vehicle, but just trying to find them, and I just never felt like I found the spot. But it was a good fun hunt. And actually tomorrow I'm heading out to do a muzzleloader hunt for Roosevelt elk back in my home state of Washington. So looking forward to that.
Oh, that's got to be amazing. I've heard those Roosevelts are, 1, incredibly hard to get to and see, and 2, they're just, gigantic elk.
Yeah, at least for me personally, they're super frustrating. They're like my arch nemesis of hunting. So hopefully, maybe this is the year. So we've killed a few in this area during the archery season. This is our first time in the muzzleloader, and so we'll see what it's like. But looking forward to it.
And it's something I've never experienced. I always look forward to maybe at some point in my future getting a chance to do that. So I can take a pause for a sec, quick. Tasker, try it. Just unplug your headphones once and just use your monitor speaker. So there you go. If you try and keep it down enough so it doesn't feed back through the mics, that'll work. So then Wags will be able to hear.
Can I hear Mark? Is his name Mark?
Yep, you'll be there,
Mark.
Mark.
Say something.
Check. 1 2 1 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was
Yeah,
getting like, I didn't know. I was like, oh, can you guys not hear me? I'm like, I'm talking. Should I just quit talking?
for some reason, like, the connections with Wags wasn't working to be able to hear, to at least be able to hear. So I was trying to like hand signals. Great job though talking through it. So, all right, well, we'll just keep rolling on, pick up where we left off. So Wags, what have you been up to lately around your place?
Hey, I actually went out there. I'm old school, obviously. You know that. I don't have I don't have cellular service on my camera. So I pulled cards and I was very, very happy. I had 2 bucks. I had one 10-pointer, probably about 140 incher. Then I had another one that came in pretty good. He was flying through there all blurry, probably a good 150 incher. Not the ones that I've seen across the street, but at least I'm pulling cards now and seeing horns, whereas before it was all does and turkeys. And this is the one year I didn't do my fall turkey tag like you did. So I'm like, oh, here we go. But no, exciting to see that. Food plot's coming up through kind of in the lull area right now. So we threw some winter wheat out there, winter rye out there, and try to grab some green manure, put that out there I'll turn that over in the spring, but at least something green that'll bring the animals around.
And we talked about last week the CWD stuff, Wisconsin DNR talking about, now this week the latest is reminding hunters to test deer before consuming venison. Now, Mark, I know you hunt all over the country. Is that something like you're concerned with? Do you get animals tested? Do you worry about that before you eat them at all, or?
So where we're at, at least in where I hunt a lot here in Wisconsin, I haven't always, but as of late, I have been getting my deer tested. I actually shot a pretty nice buck 2 years ago during the archery season. And it was like, excuse me, I think it kind of fell into that. I had the biologist age it, via tooth wear. And he said it kind of fell in that 4 to 5 year old bucket. And I did ask him, like, hey, what do you think the odds are that this thing is CWD positive? And he said, honestly, like, it could be about 50-50, right? And I'm like, okay. So I got it tested and it turned out to be positive. And when he came in, super healthy buck, like no visible signs of decline. He was grunting, he was rutting, but yeah, it turned out to be positive. So, I don't know. Like, I think there's a lot of unknowns, and I'm generally a conservative person, so I adopt kind of maybe a better safe than sorry approach with some of that stuff. But yeah, it definitely used to be something I wasn't as worried about, but I think about more, and I have kids since then, so you kind of have that consideration. And like I said, there's just with the unknowns, I don't know, right, wrong, otherwise.
How'd they do the testing for you when you took the deer in for testing?
So like we have actually it's super convenient because there's one really adjacent to Vortex here, but it's like a drop-off station, like a deer check station. But it's got all the stuff there, so you fill out the paperwork, you drop the head off in a receptacle, and then they check those periodically, and then get your results back.
Yeah, I was curious because I know there's a couple different ways that they do that. I shot a doe. It's got to be a number of years ago, probably 6 years ago. And we happened to be loading the truck as a DNR agent came down the road, and they actually just cut like all the way back on the cheek and took like the thyroid out right there on the side of the road. So of course it's kind of weird when you take a deer in and they're like, why is the face cut up on this thing? But that's just, everybody does it a little bit different. Unfortunately, we didn't have any issues with ours, but it's curious how they do some of the samples when you're actually at a testing site versus just DNR agents that are out and about and just checking in on different samples. So,
but yeah, it's it definitely is an interesting phenomenon, and that areas of Wisconsin, it seems like we're at a little bit of a epicenter, for lack of a better word. So I also think the DNR can use the data, so I even just from helping those guys out, if it helps them out with more information, they can learn a little bit more. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm in the same thing with you on that, Mark. But we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Coming up here, more tailgate talk on 97.3 The Game. The whole point, though, of having Mark and Vortex on is we're going to talk about optics. That's what they do. And it's something that if you look at a packaging on a set of binoculars, it's all these numbers a lot of times. This X, what does this mean? We're going to help get some of those answers and dive a little more in depth into optics and maybe the future of optics coming up here on Tailgate Talk.
So the latest CDC guidelines recommend gathering outdoors. What a better way to enjoy time outside than archery? Whether it's practice for bow hunting or just shooting for fun, go see my friend Kaz and his knowledgeable team at Buck Rub Archery in Pewaukee. I got my bow there, I shoot there. In fact, my wife's even gotten into archery with me, and she's just as excited to have a new thing we can do together. Buck Rub Archery is your locally owned and operated one-stop shop designed for archers, where you can test any bow in stock before you buy, and they won't be undersold on any bow or crossbow. Plus, all come with full warranty and the personal touch service you'll only get at Buck Rub Archery. Stop in and see what I'm talking about off I-94 on Silvernail Road, or look them up at buckrubarchery.com.
And we're back. This is Tailgate Talk. I'm Shaun Ritter. Wags, Tasker in, along with our special guest, Mark Boardman of Vortex Optics. How long have you been with Vortex?
Man, I've been at Vortex going on about 13 years now, which is hard to believe. So it's been, it's an amazing company, amazing people. You know, when I first started, probably one of the most common questions we answered was, who's Vortex? What do you guys do? And over time, we've just, developed an amazing team of people that just absolutely crush. They're passionate about hunting. They're passionate about shooting. They're passionate about the outdoors. Our engineers are top shelf. The marketing team is amazing. The sales department just murders. I don't know. But not literally. Do a great job.
That was a great choice of words.
Animals.
Yeah. So no, everybody's just down here, got their heads down grinding. It's an amazing team. People, collaborate, work together, and it just makes it, and we're all passionate about the products that we're producing. So it makes it really fun.
That's a lot of different products that you guys have got on the market. Everything from binoculars, rangefinders, obviously you do scopes, spotting scopes. Is there anything else I'm missing that you guys make?
We pretty much cover all the major categories in the sport optics lineup. Like you said, rifle scopes, spotting scopes, binoculars, rangefinders, rangefinding binoculars, red dot sights, optics that are geared more towards hunting, optics that are geared more towards tactical, long range, things like that. So within all those categories, we've got, we try to have something for everybody, right? So, definitely at least a good, better, best, and at each one of those tiers of, price and quality, we want to make sure that if a person spends $1 with us, they're getting more for their dollar than if they spend it somewhere else.
Well, one thing that stands out to me a lot of times with Vortex, when you talk about getting money for it, is just the warranty in itself that you guys have.
Yeah, for sure. So, customer service and our customers are at the heart of everything we do, really everything. If you consider the customer, they are the nucleus, and everything revolves around the customer, and the warranty is definitely part of that. So it's we call it our VIP warranty, which stands for very important promise. And it truly is a lifetime, unconditional, no fault, transferable warranty. There's no paperwork to fill out. If you give your binos to your son or you sell them, the warranty goes with that person. We're not going to be able to, it's not like an original owner thing. There's not a time limit. It covers electronics too, which is definitely standout. So rangefinders, red dot sights, things of that nature, they're all covered. If you're a Vortex customer, we are interested in customers for life, and that is, before, during, and well after the sale.
Mark, I got a quick question for you. You said good, better, and best. I think for us, or at least for me here in Wisconsin, and the amount of ranging that I do, I'm going to go on the hunting side, not the tactical side. But I'm not in the mountains. I'm not looking 1,000 yards. I'm not chasing billy goats. I'm not looking at rams up the mountainside. Big, better, and best. I guess we need to know, we're looking across maybe a 500-yard cornfield. Our rifles here, we're not taking shots like that. Know your background. We're not shooting into mountainsides. So do we have to spend a lot of money? Or I guess my question to you is, how do you focus or make a focal point for a Wisconsin type hunter compared to a guy who's going out west? And do you just have to spend more money to go out west? And what kind of product line do you recommend for the shorter areas, the guys that are sitting in stands and going out to deer camp here in Wisconsin, and maybe 100 yards? So do we get a 1,000-yard look to make it look like a 50-yard look, or what do we do?
So, I'd always recommend a person get the best optics that are going to suit their needs, right? and everybody's going to have different needs, and they're going to have a different budget. I wouldn't discount the need for high quality optics for even, like a Midwest setting, like you're describing something, like you're not looking miles necessarily, like
Right.
500 yards might be like the longest you're going to be able to see, or the longest you're going to be able to shoot. And so it just depends on, I guess, the person and their needs. Like our Diamondback series of binoculars, bang for the buck, tough to beat, right? A 10 by 42, which is
Right.
probably going to be one of your more popular configurations, a 10 by 42 or an 8 by 42. I can make arguments for both. It's going to retail for like $230, right? I mean, you're getting an insane amount of optical quality, performance, and value in that binocular. And you can take that same binocular and you can certainly go on an elk hunt, a mule deer hunt, heck, even a coos deer hunt. Jim and I in the office were coos deer hunting a couple of years ago with our bows in Arizona, and there was a guy with a set of 12 by 50 crossfires, which was actually, that's a tier below the Diamondbacks, and he had them on a tripod, and he was spotting deer like crazy in low light, right? So it just depends on the person. Now, that said, I've got a set of our, Razor UHDs in front of me right now, and this is the 10 by 50 version, but, this is a top tier alpha class binocular. Depending on the person or how they're going to use it, like if I lived in Arizona and I was glassing off a tripod for hours a day, you really are going to benefit from something this is going to be, I would almost consider
Right.
that a necessity. It's not, but it is at the same time. So if that makes any sense, but I don't know if I really answered your question.
Well,
I probably
I believe,
didn't, but
yeah, and I believe my optics are more. I would rather spend more money on your scope than, this may sound weird, and I don't know how you guys feel, Task and Ritter. I would spend more money with my scope than I actually would with my rifle. And maybe that's reverse thinking, but I think your product is much more important to me than actually my rifle. I'm not a I don't chase the rifle. I chase the sight.
I think that's a smart move. Of course, I work for an optics company, right? But good thinking there. But you can take a firearm, like essentially like an entry level type firearm. The level of accuracy that you're getting with some of these, some of these are sub MOA rifles. They are incredibly accurate. So you really can leverage that with a higher quality optic. Maybe something with better glass, better prisms, better coatings. That's going to give you that optical clarity and resolution. Maybe potentially it might have a broader magnification range. Like, you could take like a Ruger American and put one of our Viper HSLRs or our new, top tier Razor HD LHT, which has, it's a 4.5 to 22 by 50. It's got a first focal plane glass etched reticle. It's got, just amazing optic quality, pop up and down locking turrets. So if a person's going to go through the process of getting their ballistic data and want to know exactly what their drops are going to be at, their respective distances they plan on shooting and dialing elevation, you can really leverage the accuracy of that rifle and increase your effective range and your overall effectiveness in the field by doing that.
Well, and I agree with you, because I'm not looking at, like you just said, we're not looking at that long range rifle where I'm shooting across a canyon or I'm trying to shoot a goat or something like that. I need that. We don't take into the drop. I want to be able to see, so I can take an entry level Remington. I can take a 240. I can take something for my daughter, a 300, a 270, and I can put a nice optic on it, because like you said, these companies, these firearms and these rifles and these machines are so accurate as long as you can see. And that's huge, especially in Wisconsin. You go out west, I understand the firearm is a little more important, and I can see that. But here in Wisconsin, for my capabilities, I'd rather have a $300 to $500 firearm. And I always thought you pay twice as you pay. If I pay $500 for my rifle, I better pay at least $500 to $1,000 for my scope.
The most expensive rifle in the world isn't going to do you a whole lot of good if you can't see what you're shooting at.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
That's great. Yeah.
You hit on a lot of points there, and the one thing I wanted to get to discuss as part of our shows, because a lot of the whole thing that we lean on is not being over people's heads, and saying some of the numbers, 8 by 42, when it comes to optics, let's just start at the bare bones, Mark. What exactly do those numbers mean for someone that maybe are looking to buy their very first pair of binoculars and really don't know what they're looking at?
Yeah, for sure. So like I've got a set of binos here in front of me right now. This is a 10 by 50, right? So the 10, that first number is going to denote the magnification, right? So that's how many times it's going to magnify the image, more than like, your natural eyesight, right? The 50 is going to be the objective diameter. So that's going to be the end of one of the barrels opposite the eyepiece, right? And so common diameters there on I'd say a full-size binocular, you're going to see a 10 by 42 or an 8 by 42 or a 10 by 50 or an 8 by 50. And what that objective diameter does, essentially, all things being equal, is the larger the objective, the more light it's going to let in, and so that's going to it's going to let that light in via the exit pupil, right? So, and the exit pupil is essentially going to denote how much of that light is actually reaching your eyeball. So, it's a simple calculation. So this binocular right here is going to have a 5 millimeter exit pupil because you take that objective diameter and divide it by the power number. So 50 divided by 10, 5, you got a 5 millimeter exit pupil. So if you're going to have this essentially the same binocular and it was maybe a 10 by 42, you take 42, divide it by 10, you're going to get a smaller exit pupil, right? And there can be trade-offs there. That 10 by 42 is probably is likely going to be a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter. So if those are considerations for you, then you may want to go with the 10 by 42, and maybe the optical quality in that binocular is, so efficient that it's going to do everything you need it to do. Maybe you are constantly hunting black bears in low light scenarios and looking at essentially, black objects and with dark backgrounds in low light situations. Well, maybe you want to gravitate towards that 10 by 50. So, but yeah, those are the numbers. 10 is going to be the power. 50 is going to be the objective diameter. Similar in a rifle scope as well. So in that example that I used earlier, a 4.5 to 22 by 50, it's going to be a 4.5 power on the rifle scope's very lowest end of the zoom range. It's going to be 22 on the highest end of the zoom range, and that 50 is going to be the objective diameter of the lens on the opposite the eyepiece.
That's great. That's one thing I guess I just learned too, is that, not really knowing a ton about optics is just thinking about that in the sense of low light versus, bright light. I'm not sure that that's something that, maybe our listeners may know about, but I know that's definitely something that I didn't know.
I think
that's interesting just to think about, like for me, getting out there early before sunrise and being able to see things as they're moving through the woods in early daybreak or close to sunset. That's something that I think obviously will make a difference in the next pair of optics that I buy.
Yeah, those are definitely critical times of day, right? So you want to make those considerations. Now, one thing to keep in mind is you might be like, oh, like you said, like our Diamondbacks, which are a phenomenal binocular. I love them. But if you're going to say like, okay, well, the 10 by 50 Diamondback is going to let in more light than the 10 by 50 or than the 10 by 42 UHD, right? Well, not necessarily. It's got an entirely different optical system. It's got different glass. It's got different prisms, different coatings, different optical design that are going to, enhance or maximize certain attributes. So you kind of play that game a little bit, but all things being equal, the numbers generally work out.
And that's the biggest thing I want to hit that question. I feel that the modern, just normal average person doesn't understand, especially like I said, the low light thing. So that plays into where do you hunt? What do you hunt based on binoculars? For me, like the basic, the 10 by 42 is plenty for me because I'm, typically not necessarily that darkness, or I wanted something light. Again, we talked earlier about being, mobile, so I don't want a whole lot of stuff on me. So it just works out well for me. You're talking about, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, and I generally gravitate a little bit towards more magnification. That's a personal preference, but that's also like a trap that a lot of people fall into, is like that more is better. Like, well, 10's better than 8. Well, not necessarily. Again, where are you hunting? How are you hunting? Less magnification might be, might enhance your situation. You're going to get that larger exit pupil with an 8. Maybe you aren't looking those greater distances. It'll probably give you a wider field of view, right? So you kind of got to, I guess, weigh the pros and cons of each. So more isn't always better. Sometimes less can be better when it comes to those numbers as well.
I agree with you. I agree, especially here. You just said Midwestern. We're looking to age deer at a shorter distance. So we want to be able to zoom in. You want to be able to magnify that quick. I want a 500-yard look to be like right in front of me. I want to be able to adjust that, because if I'm looking for age structure, I'm looking for neck size, if I'm looking for points, I'm looking for antler size, growth, girth, whether it's a nub buck, whether that's a spike. I mean, there's a lot of things that we look at. So you're right. Sometimes the bigger number isn't. What can bring it closer to you to fulfill your needs here in Wisconsin are big.
Absolutely.
We're just talking about some different optic systems, whether it be binoculars, scopes, things like that. You mentioned different kinds of glass, different prisms.
What do you see as kind of like the future of where to go next? I mean, you guys seem to have mastered a lot in the optics game already. Is there anything, and I'm not like saying give us spoilers or like but like where do you think the future could go? I mean, is there eventually going to be the scope that just like, kind of like the bows already have one where you just point it up and it automatically sets for you where to shoot and distances and all that?
I mean, there's definitely some interesting technology, and we are, leveraging that technology. We're creating new technologies for certain products. I think some of that will, as far as like in the hunting world, state game and fish agencies will probably, they'll have to decide what's deemed, appropriate or not appropriate for, a quotation mark fair chase hunt. But I mean, you look at the little black boxes that we carry around in our pocket every day now. I mean, there's some, there's a lot of interesting and useful technology out there. That's for sure.
Are you referencing maps and Onyx and things like that? Because
yes.
Yep, guilty. I am definitely a guy that lives and dies by the cell phone. If I mentioned I was out the other night, I forgot my thermocell. And as much as that sucked and I became an all-you-can-eat buffet for the mosquitoes, I would have been more lost and would have sucked more if I didn't have my cell phone with Onyx.
Yes. At least you can get out and away from the mosquitoes at the end of the night.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anything else you guys had? Anything that popped up questions about optics or anything?
I'm curious, what is your most popular product that you guys sell?
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but just by and large, it's going to be those optics that fit a lot of people's budgets, that suit their needs. So you see a lot of the Diamondback series, the Viper series. The Diamondback, I'd say, like I said, it's an incredible amount of optical quality and performance, whether it's a rifle scope, a spotting scope, a binocular. The Viper HD series, they kind of bump that top tier of optical performance, but don't carry that top tier price tag. So again, super attractive. So yeah, by the numbers, I think you're going to see those things that kind of fit in that bucket, do really well.
I've got the Diamondbacks as my binocular series, and then as far as rangefinders, here's an interesting one. Now, the difference between like the 1000, and I'm talking rangefinders, and the Hunter, the
1500, I think it was,
the 1300,
yeah,
the models. And I actually got this from a guy at Cabela's, and I'm going to share this here. And I don't know if I've shared it here on that, but he's like, well, testing the difference, and he's like, oh, I'd go with the 1300s. I'm like, I get that. It's really nice because you guys have the lighting in it, that gives you displays like in that bright red. So again, low light, it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to me, he goes, I find when I used to have one that just had the black lettering in it, is I would take it and range it, and then I'd look up at the sky where the sky was lighter, and I could read the numbers. I was like, hot tip. That was brilliant. I can't believe that I never would have thought of something like that, but it's just something that popped in my head. So I went with the 1000 because of that, because I'm typically not in super dark situations, and I don't mind quick going, boom, look up and go with it. But is there any thoughts to changing the coloring of those at all? Or is it just, black and red is where it is? Because I just feel like a bright yellow would be really useful.
Fluorescent, yeah.
I mean, that's, I'd say, the traditional things that you see, and that's, goes with our rangefinders as well, as you're going to see like a black LCD, right? Or the illuminated reticle, which is generally red. That's kind of the most common. In red dot sights, oftentimes you do see kind of like that, that bright green. And so, yeah, who knows? I mean, I don't. I'm not down in the product development team, but those guys always have interesting things cooking. So they might have something like that. I don't know.
There's not a wink or a tip of the cap on that. I
No.
see. You're a good stone man, Mark.
They don't walk past you and say, "Hey, we're working on this."
No.
Just
So
make
yeah,
sure
I'm
you
not
don't
even.
tell anybody.
That's not even like a soft wink wink. But I mean you do see that in red dot sites though for sure. And the interesting thing is that we still call them red dot sites even if they have a green dot. Yeah, but whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's something, it's how anything that catches a name. You think about tools that, stick with the names, crescent wrench or, stuff is like, we name it by the brand, which they call it that years later.
Yeah, a Kleenex. Yeah, or whatever.
We're creatures of habit and it's hard to break our habits.
Absolutely.
I think I got nothing else, man. So I guess, is there anything you wanted to talk about? I mean, I feel like we've done a big Vortex ad, but I still want to give you a chance to plug anything, any new products, any new stuff for people to check out, stuff that you think people, it could make their lives easier, their hunt better or anything.
Man, the one thing I'd say is if you're hunting, particularly like in the Midwest and Wisconsin, I feel like there's still folks that they're not carrying binoculars with them into the field. Like you said, I'm not looking that far. Again, I know I work for an optics company, but it will enhance your overall outdoor experience. It'll enhance your hunting experience. Even at closer distances, you think you can see, and lots of times you really can't. And if you look into that thick brush with a good set of binos, you're going to be able to see deer with a different depth of field. What might appear as a wall of brush, you look into that with a set of binos, and you're going to be able to see a deer maybe possibly well beyond it. You're going to be able to call out that deer, prepare for that deer to come so it doesn't surprise you, and hopefully get an opportunity that you otherwise wouldn't have gotten. And the other thing I'd say is, look into extending your effective range with a scope that potentially is purpose-built for dialing. Is it a necessity? No. But, man, you get that big buck, and he's out with in a cut cornfield, locked down with a doe, and there's no way to get close. If you can shoot 300, 400, 500, 600 yards, and you have the confidence to shoot at those ranges, and those are shots that you can execute consistently, again, that might give you an opportunity that you otherwise may not have been able to capitalize on. So those are two things that I'd definitely be thinking about. But and the bigger one of those, man, carry a set of binos in the woods. It's just gonna it'll make the overall. You'll be able to watch things whether they're deer or not, and like I said, you might get an opportunity that you may not have gotten.
And when you get that opportunity and you are looking at a 400, 500, 600 yard shot, the difference in the investment to get that upper grade, top tier set of glass is going to be irrelevant in your mind, and you're going to always kick yourself for not doing it then. So
Can I say, I'm going to ask a question, could be stupid. It's a product question. Is there a product where we have a nice binocular with a built-in rangefinder? And I apologize, I've always carried two pieces. I've carried glass and I've carried rangefinders. Do you make a product like that that's within budget for the guy who's not looking to go out west but to hunt in the Midwest?
So I'd say, so do we make them? Yes. So we've got our Fury HD 5000 rangefinder binocular, and then we have the Fury HD 5000 AB. Now the difference between those being the AB version has the onboard applied ballistic software. It has environmental sensors. It's got a built-in digital compass. So then that leverages the wind bearing capture mode. And again, that AB is definitely geared towards. That's geared toward the person who is, they are dialed in. They have gone through the process of getting their ballistic data. They are interested in extending their effective range, whether it's target shooting or hunting, and they're practicing, right? They're practicing those long range shots. So their confidence is, as much as like maybe a person around here would be with a 50-yard shot, right? But yeah, so you do, and then you have the Fury HD 5000. It's a 10 by 42 range finding binocular. As the name implies, it's going to range reflective targets out to 5,000 yards. That's a little bit further than I plan on shooting at a deer. But yeah, phenomenal piece of kit. It's not a budget optic by any stretch of the imagination, but you have to think you are getting your rangefinder and your high quality binocular in one unit. It's going to reduce the kit that you carry into the field. I'd say particularly for rifle hunting, they can be just super, super handy. I'd say particularly in scenarios where you're even hunting with another person, They can focus on the shooting. You can be like, hey, there he is. He's at, 350 yards. Oh, nope, he's at 360, 370. Okay, yep, he just turned broadside shoot. And with that, with that 10 power, you can be ranging, communicating, as well as watching for impacts, misses, where the bullet hit, where did the animal go, right? If you're just using like a handheld rangefinder, that can be a little bit more difficult in that rifle scenario, and having that information or that data during the shot or post-shot, might make the difference in recovering that animal.
Would this be a product that production may say, hey, this is advantageous. We have two options here. We're on the higher end of our cost scale. Would this be something that we would try to provide at a more convenient cost? Or is this a product that is strictly for high tech?
I feel like Wags is just asking if they're going to special make a binocular for him. That's
Well,
a
yeah,
lower price point.
I
Can you make me a binocular rangefinder at a lower price point?
Yeah.
I want a $500 binocular, and I want a $200 range or $350 rangefinder all in one. If I can get the whole package for $700, I'd be happy.
We're actually going to call it the Wags. But
he'll sign all of them too. He'll actually give
then
you
you'll lose.
the signature.
You don't want that on there. Guy couldn't throw a strike. How the hell is he going to shoot a deer?
I'd say, like, am I aware of anything right now where it's like, you're going to get a high quality range finding binocular at a like incredibly like budget friendly price? I guess I'm not, but I think also the natural way of things is as time goes on, these technologies become more available. They potentially become cheaper to produce. And so you start seeing some of these, amazing things that you see in those, more alpha class top tier type optics migrate down. You look even a few years ago, like if you wanted a long range scope that was, purpose built for dialing and, exposed turrets and illumination, that really was limited to those, $2,000 and up type optics. Well, now we offer optics that are in the, the $400 range that have a lot of those features. So am I aware of anything right now? No. Do I think that's kind of like the natural way of things? Yeah, I do.
That's where I said I'm sitting back on what I've got right now. That's what I'm going to use for until I can get that, combined together, maybe at a lower price point as the technology goes on. And by that time, I figure my son will be ready for binos and rangefinder, and I just pass mine to him. Again, as we talked about why I'm a Vortex customer is the stuff you hit on, Mark, the fact that, the VIP warranty and the fact that you can pass down, and that's all aside from it being an awesome product. But
Could you tell Mark the story about when the cashier asked if you wanted to buy the extended warranty? And this is a pretty good story, Mark. I like this one.
Yeah, checking out with a Vortex when I bought my rangefinder, like, oh, do you want to buy the extended warranty? And I literally looked, I go, I really appreciate the offer, but I'm pretty sure the manufacturer said I can run it over with my truck and they'll cover it. Thank you.
We don't encourage it.
Right.
Disclaimer. Big disclaimer.
It was just one of those where I was like, you're very sweet, but the product, never mind. Okay. Thank you for offering, though. I appreciate it.
Yes,
that was
we
good.
appreciate the consideration there. And going back to, that's a totally funny story. Handheld rangefinders and rangefinding binoculars, I don't think there's one that's necessarily better than the other. I think it's just situation application specific. When I bow hunt, I actually prefer a handheld rangefinder. I feel like I can be more discreet with it. I can operate a little bit easier one-handed. And I oftentimes find myself using my rangefinder as a monocular. I keep it on at hand as a secondary optic. Maybe I just need a quick look, or I need to clarify something, or, is that a deer back there? And I can do that with the rangefinder. And then, I can easily drop it, set it down, put it back in my pocket, and then get ready to make that bow shot. So I use both. It just depends on the situation.
Now I'm curious, like in a hardwood situation, my first thing I do when I set up on a spot, whether I'm, climbing a tree or just on the ground, my first thing I pull up my rangefinder. When I get set, this is where I am. I hit like every tree around me, and I make mental note of each tree. What's the 20 yard? Am I the only one that does
and then
that?
it doesn't matter because you're going to redo it anyways every half hour when you're bored in the woods.
Hey, there's a new something there. I could probably slip an arrow in there. What is that distance?
But exactly what you say, though. It's after, like, I'll know where it is. I still, the same thing, we'll use that rangefinder just real quick. Like, I'll see it's like something move in the brush or whatever. Like, no, never mind.
Yep. And yeah, I do the same thing. I get up there, I start ranging stuff. I try to find like my 20, 30, 40 marks, things like that. And then about 5 minutes later, I'm like, wait, was that tree the 30? Which one was the 30? And then I do it again.
Maybe I just have that dumb brain that remembers things. So that's why I guess I just do the 20. So I know what my 20-yard radius is. But then anything else, it's like,
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. 35. Oh, nope. Yeah. But within 20, I got it. We're set.
Well,
I
I
like
think
it.
that's a good lead into the only other thing that you haven't covered, Mark, is just all of your merch and apparel and all the stuff that you guys have, accessories for getting out in the woods, your harnesses and just carrying cases and all that stuff. I know that you can touch on that in a second. I know we're working on doing some things for giveaways with you guys and some additional engagement. But if you want to touch on any of that stuff.
So yeah, I mean, apparel is definitely an area of focus for us. We're ramping up our lifestyle apparel, and really it's almost like kind of a crossover between like, hey, can you wear this? You could wear it to work, you could wear it to the range. Got some interesting functionality and some tech built in, but definitely more of that along the lines of that lifestyle apparel. So it's pretty much actually I guess I have a hat on today, but yeah, it's pretty much my entire wardrobe now. So I don't know how big a testament that is. I'm probably not considered the most fashionable person in the world, but it looks good though. Trust me.
None of us are, but we make ourselves look as good as we can.
Yeah, exactly. We tried, right? And then the bino harnesses. So I'd say that's another cool thing with pretty much all of our binoculars. They're going to come with a quality binocular harness, so a person doesn't have to, buy that individually. We do have them for sale, individually if a person doesn't have a harness currently. But it's just an added bonus. You're going to get a great binocular, and it's going to come with a harness that's going to work great in the field.
The functionality of it, I absolutely love. Spring turkey hunting, I'll actually tuck the little side pouches. I can put calls in there so they can still get air and breathe just a little bit. And like my slate call I can actually slip that in the back side of it, and set my little striker next to it. Like everything is contained right within here. So if I'm going to look and I need to grab a call, it's all, really quick and easy to get to.
Yeah, it does become like a sweet little turkey pack for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up there. We appreciate everything. Appreciate the time. Thank you so much, Mark, for jumping on with us. And
yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
You got a big busy season planned for the rest of 2021 and into January?
Man, nothing too crazy. Like I said, did that quick archery antelope. Going to go chase elk around with the muzzy. When I get back here, looking forward to chasing whitetails with the bow for probably the rest of October, November. Might make it out for a different mule deer hunt with the muzzy later in the year. And then those Arizona coos deer are calling my name with the bow. So, but we'll see. We'll see what we can fit in, Work, family, try to hunt as much as you can, right?
Gary with that big time, man. Well, hey, appreciate it. Thanks as always. Maybe we'll check back in sometime later on next year and some more stuff and hear how those hunts went with you.
Awesome. Hey, thanks guys. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Take care. And good luck out there.
Absolutely. Take care, Mark. Thanks much, man.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, there you got it. Mark Boardman, Vortex Optics, right here in Wisconsin. Fantastic company. And I know this may have sounded like a giant Vortex ad. We just like to stick with, our local people. We're a Wisconsin-based outdoor show on a Wisconsin radio station. And so whether it's a Vortex product, some other product, whatever, we helped answer some questions when it comes to optics and specifically what some of those weird numbers mean and how you can best interpret those numbers to fit your hunting scenarios. Next week, we're going to get to some stuff on tree stands because I know the three of us all hunt from different scenarios when it comes to tree stands or ground blinds or harness, all the stuff. We've got a lot of stuff we can cover on the show next week. So if you want to contact us, anything you want to share, of course, if you've got pictures of some bow deer that you've taken, feel free to share them with us on our Instagram @on the tailgate. You can find me @TheRealRitter, @ET5504 for Tasker, and for former Major Leaguer Paul Wagner. We'll catch you next week right here on Tailgate Talk.